Welcome back to the Soaring Sports Podcast. It's good to be back, and we're here to talk about, well, the sports news that you might have missed during the summer, or just if you haven't missed it, well, we're going to give our thoughts about it anyway, and we'll let you guys decide what's good for that or not. But yeah, so we're back. We had a long summer, but it's good to be back. Alan, how you doing today?
Oh, I've been pretty good. A lot of stuff has happened since our last recording. Now I'm back into working again. I work at a school district at a high school, and I'm just excited to be able to wake up every morning and still getting used to waking up early and driving 40 minutes. But other than that, it's been great. A beautiful morning weather here in Texas, and especially getting a 3-day weekend. There's nothing better than that, seriously.
No, 3-day weekends are the best. I have work later, which is why we're recording in the mid-morning time frame. But it's time and a half as I work retail, so that's always nice. But yeah, so we got a lot on the docket today, Alan, and it's good to be back and recording. It's been a while. We've had a little bit of scheduling conflicts ever since you got a new job. Congratulations, yes. By the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I deserve a standing ovation. I'll take it anytime.
Yeah, so we're going to have lots of fun. We there's a few topics we're going to cover today, and it's all about, we're going to talk about the Ben Simmons situation over in Philadelphia. We'll talk about the NHL allowing their stars to go play in the Olympics, which is great news. And if we got time, we'll go from there. But we're going to start there, and we're going to get, the Pineapple Down South and 22 all involved into this. So let's get started, Alan.
Okay. Well, looking at the Ben Simmons situation, for those that don't know, what has been going on is he now is saying it's time to trade me. If you don't trade me, I'm going to hold out, meaning he's not going to be participating in the training camps and all the basketball activities that's been occurring. And normally you see that in other sports. You'd rarely see this in basketball. Rarely these situations are taken care of, mostly behind the scenes, and they go from there. But in this case, this is a little bit different. This is something that to be honest with you, I think he's being laughed at just because of what he's doing, and not really trying to deal with this behind the scenes.
I can see that point, and I think it's worth noting that it is a possibility, but I honestly think it all stems back to what happened during this year's playoffs, where both his coach and, his duo partner and star and another MVP frontrunner for the last year, Joel Embiid, they were basically mocking him. They were discrediting him. They were doing everything they could to essentially say, we don't want you here anymore, without saying it that way. And, you got to imagine, if you're Ben Simmons, you don't feel too good about that. And why would you want to return to the team? And so I think my take is I think he tried to do what he could behind the scenes. But in the end, he had to make his case known to the NBA at large and the media at large, because he knew that would take away all of the 76ers leverage on why they weren't trading him sooner. We know that he's been on the trading block ever since the beginning of last year. And so you got to imagine that takes a toll on the player. And if you're that player, why would you want to return to the organization that clearly doesn't want you?
Yeah, I do agree. But I think it also has to do with the fact, he should have gotten better. He should have been you know what? I'm not saying everybody talks about, oh, he needs to have a jump shot. I do agree. But I think how he needs to approach it is use his strengths and also work on your weaknesses, but do it where you are yourself. And I think Ben Simmons at times, like, he tries too hard in that regard. He thinks that he needs to be shooting like Steph Curry or Damian Lillard, just going bonkers, crazy, shooting from three, even from 30 feet from the arc. He doesn't have to do that. He just needs to focus on just like, okay, make a 17-footer. That's fine. Like, that's no big deal. But I think a lot of it, like, he just like, he's a heck of a player. He's a big time difference maker, especially on the defensive side. But at times, like, getting to the free throw line is this one thing where he just doesn't have it. And that's where it's also his fault on that, where he should have done a little bit more. But I think for him, a fresh scene would work for him. Now the question, where? That is yet to be seen. That we could come up with a lot of scenarios, but I think for him, a fresh start, a new scenery will benefit him big time.
No, I think so too. And Alan, you and I had a conversation off air, and I think it's worth bringing up here. We were talking about this whole situation, right? And I asked you the question: say he goes to a contender, right? So Denver, LA, Utah, any other contender, Milwaukee, any contender in the NBA right now. Do you see him as a Dennis Rodman type? What Dennis Rodman was able to provide for the Chicago Bulls back in their 90s runs, right? Great defense. Obviously, Rodman took shots when he needed to, but it wasn't what he was focusing on. So do you think Ben Simmons could do that?
I think there's like 3 teams where he could do that. Like, will he score? Yeah, but his different kind of scoring is going to be very different to his scoring, how he was doing it in Philadelphia. There's 3 teams that I can think of that could use that.
Which 3 teams?
I think Utah is one of them. Just because Utah is, you saw, they're known for shooting the threes. They live and die by it. And having someone like Ben Simmons, and look at that, Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell, like, Donovan can focus on the shooting, scoring, and all. Ben, and I think this is where the Jazz really struggled, was they did not have a wing defender, someone that could guard the Kawhi Leonards, the Paul Georges, or the Devin Bookers even. They did not have that kind of player. So getting Ben Simmons in Utah, that will be huge. They'll probably have to give up someone like a Mike Conley. But hey, you could plug in Ben Simmons at the point, be a point forward, and that will allow the Jazz to even compete even more. I think a trade Conley for Ben Simmons would make sense, but I doubt Utah would do that. But if it comes available, then I think they would do it in a heartbeat.
Right. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that podcast I sent you a while ago, but it talked about how essentially with Ben Simmons coming out and saying, I want to trade, it made basically whatever Philadelphia would want in return for him, like that superstar level talent. It basically made Philly lose all that leverage that they had. And now it's kind of all to Ben Simmons. And I thought, that's kind of valid. And it just made me think, was this more of a move to say, let's just get this done and over with? You clearly don't want me here. I no longer want to be here, especially after everything that happened in the last postseason. Just trade me. I'm done playing the game you want to play. Get the high caliber player in return. Just trade me at this point. I'm done. Do you think there's some validity to that where the Philly kind of has lost all their major leverage for getting that?
I think a little bit. There's a little bit of a deal. It is valid, but also I just think really for what Ben Simmons does, the Sixers are not gonna get the package that the Rockets got for James Harden. I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. If Philly thinks if they want that, they're crazy, because Ben Simmons, he does not make that type of impact that James Harden does, even though both Ben Simmons and James Harden, when it comes to the playoffs, they have choked. Even though one season Ben Simmons got injured, but still, like they're not going to get that package. I don't care if it comes from Boston and it comes from Washington, if it comes from the Clippers or the Lakers, whoever. That's not going to happen. Like, sorry, Philly, but no way. Like, they probably will do a straight up trade, like you trade up straight up, but it will be like kind of like where Portland gets him and they trade and they get and the Sixers get CJ McCollum, which that will probably make sense, but it's gonna be like, would you do it or not? So that, but getting that big time package that the Rockets got from James Harden, that's not gonna happen. No way.
No, I don't think so either. So, and here's I just wanted to look up his contract real quick just to see if he'd be, well, if, no trade deal comes, what if he would just be entering free agency next year anyways. But no, he's like on the second year of a 5-year contract right now. So he won't be able to just leave the year after, even if he plays with Philly this year. And so if I'm Philly's GM, the situation's kind of bad, right? Like, you can't do anything. And this whole thing reminds me of another situation back with the Avalanche a few years ago. Matt Duchene, he wanted out, and Joe Sakic, the Avalanche GM, he was like, hey, look, I know you want out. I want to get the best deal, put you in the best situation for you, but I also want to help provide the team a good future. And so just give me some time to work out the deal, and I'll get you out of here as soon as I can, but you got to work with me for a little bit. And I think that's what Philly's GM needs to do at this point. Be like, look, I'm sorry it's come to this. I know you want out and we want you here, but obviously you don't want to be here. So in that case, work with me for a little bit while I try to work out this deal for both the benefit of you and for this team. And we'll get you out of here as soon as that deal comes to light. I think that's what Philly's GM needs to do at this point.
And I think he has no option on that if that happens. And obviously, Daryl Morey, he's very known for being aggressive, and he wants to come up with an aggressive deal. But I think that the communication between management and Ben Simmons, that's been off. Like, even though Joel Embiid went on and said, oh, this rift that we're having is false, all of that. But to be honest, anytime you hear something like that, it's like, there's something. Like, I'm sorry, but there is something. And the crazy thing about it was they were my pick to lift the trophy. I thought they had the pieces necessary to lift the trophy, but I just don't know what happened. And to be honest with you, thinking about it, they deserved to lose. They really did. And now this is coming out, like, to be honest, like, when you hear things like, oh, there's no rift, there is rift. That's just a clear sign. I think if Joel Embiid hadn't said, oh, there's no rift and all, and he would have mentioned, hey, we've talked about it and all, then no big deal. But the fact that he came out saying that, to me, it sounds like there is something going on and we don't know about it.
Well, yeah. And if you go back and you read it, he's complimenting him, or Embiid's complimenting Simmons, but at the same time, he's not. And so it just lends to this whole idea of, you're trying to say there's not a rift, but you're not really supporting it in a way that would make us believe what you're saying. And that's fine. Like, if there's a rift, that's fine. If there's not, that's also fine. But clearly something's going on for Ben Simmons to say he wants out. Most players wouldn't want to leave a championship contender like Philly at this point. That I would say they're a title contender in the East. unless there's something wrong with their environment. They feel like they can't be part of that environment. And I think that's what's going on. Clearly, he doesn't necessarily want to lose the chance to win a title, but he also wants to go to an environment where, it's good for him too. And right now, I don't think Philly's that environment.
I know, but to be honest with you, he got everything. Seriously, like right now, he has another top player who's a low post phenomenon. Like you can't beat him down low, and you have a coach who has won a title, who has been in contending, who has led contending teams to deep playoff runs, and someone who is going to push it to be better. And we're still in the same conversation. When is he going to get a jump shot? When is he going to do this? When is he going to do that? But this is something where he has to figure out who does he want to be. Because to be honest with you, he's been in this league for about, let's see, he played in the 17-18 season because he got hurt his rookie year. 18-19, 19-20. It'll be going to his 5th season, and we're still questioning him. By the 5th year, if we're going to question you, we're only going to question you how you're doing in the playoffs, not your skill set. And we're still questioning when is he going to do this? When is he going to develop that?
And I think that's also more of a reflection on today's NBA too. Like a true defensive player like Ben Simmons, is undervalued in a lot of sense, in my opinion, because today's NBA is all about the jump shot, all about the 3-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
The work of what Ben Simmons is doing is undervalued because of it, and we look at what Nikola Jokic did with his MVP season last year, and people still doubted him and didn't think he was worthy of the MVP when everything else showed he was, and what's weird to me is if you look at betting odds, I'm not a gambler, but I hear from other people, other sources, that like he's not even in the top 3 for MVP this year. And that's mind-boggling. And so and what he does is great. Look at what he's done with the Nuggets, right? So, and he's constantly undervalued, not by Nuggets fans, not believe me, but by the rest of the league. And so it makes me wonder, when is this undervalue of Ben Simmons going to go away? Because clearly I think by year 5, we know who he is. He's a defensive phenom with a decent enough tool set to score points, score buckets. It's just how he uses it.
Mm-hmm. And I think a new scenery will work. Like obviously, if he gets traded to Utah, then we'll see his value. Another team that could use Ben Simmons like that is Dallas. Imagine him and Luka. Like that will allow Ben to actually play defense and actually get the load of Luka where he doesn't have to score 34 a game, but he could score at least 27 and Ben 19, 20 with his skill set. I think that will alleviate. I think to be honest, Ben Simmons should be in the Western Conference. I think that's where he can really, or even Phoenix would do well. I think the problem was that nobody could guard Giannis. And I think if Phoenix and Milwaukee played, we probably would have had a different conversation. I'm not saying Phoenix would win, but that would give Phoenix a guy like, hey, go guard Giannis, and that would have allowed Phoenix to compete, especially down low. So I think him going to the Western Conference, particularly those 3 teams, he would fit perfectly, and that's where I believe we would see his value of his skill set go up.
No, I agree. And I think, and that's the problem. All the talent with the NBA is in the Western Conference, which as a Western Conference fan, I love, but it makes it harder for your team if you're a Western Conference fan to succeed. Excuse me. But that's not to discredit the Eastern Conference by any means, but excuse me, everything is different, and I think that's what's great about the league. So
Mm-hmm.
part of me wants him to stay in the Eastern Conference, but just go to a different Eastern Conference contender just for a talent discrepancy. But honestly, like him in Dallas, as you mentioned, would be perfect. I think that's exactly what Dallas needs. And like it takes, I think it goes back to that whole Dennis Rodman comp I've made earlier. Like Luke is a great scorer, but if you add a great defensive phenom like Ben Simmons, and all he has to worry about is scoring and not necessarily the defensive side of the ball. Not to say that he wouldn't worry about defense, because obviously he still would, but it would be less of a burden on him. I think that's exactly what a player like that needs. So, yeah. You got anything else to add on this topic, Alan?
No, other than the fact that I do suspect he will get traded, but with this going on, I think it's going to take a while for a trade to come up. I won't be surprised if we come back to this topic in the deadline.
No, I wouldn't either, but I'd also be very surprised if it doesn't happen until the end of next season. So, yeah, but I think it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I do think so too, and I think what probably would have helped him is like I wanted to see Ben Simmons in the Olympics with Australia. I think even though his skill set would have still been the same, but I think that would have given him a little bit of like maturity, just because like in that team there are leaders there. There are truly guys who they know how to lead, they they know how to do the role, and that would have been the perfect situation for him. So he doesn't have to deal with the drama in Philly, and who knows what would have happened. But I guess he decided not to because he wanted to work on his skills. I think that would have been the perfect place with the Australian national team to work on his skills.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think he needed a rest and he needed to figure out what was best for him after everything that happened in the playoffs. I mean, yeah, it's disappointing when one of your countrymen doesn't want to go to the Olympics and wants to focus on themselves and their game. But like when you look at his situation from the 2021 playoffs, like it wasn't a good situation for him. I think he needed that time to rest, to ponder what would be best for him moving forward. And I think this is the decision he's come to, is he wants out.
Okay, that's a fair argument. That's a fair argument. I'm not going to dispute that either.
Especially because when you think about it, 2020 playoffs, he played so much basketball from the bubble to the Eastern Conference Finals. If I remember, that's where Philly ended up. Yeah. So like they made it all the way there. That's a lot of basketball. That's grueling on the body. He was tired, I'm sure he wanted to play in the Olympics and represent his country, because that's a big deal for everywhere else, but the US, it seems, for whatever reasons, for basketball anyways, or like other sports besides, the other sports the US represents. But anyway, I digress. But like, I think that was a big deal for him, but he realized he needed to rest his body, recuperate, and heal. I think that could have also been a major thing. He might have had a minor injury or something that we didn't even know about that was limiting him in some sense. I'm not, and that's just speculation on my part. I'm not, and when I put that out there, but we've seen things like that before. So whether or not that's true or not, I don't know, but I think it's a possibility we have to wonder about.
No, that's a fair argument, and I don't know what else to say about the Ben Simmons saga, but we will continue to monitor and we'll give our opinions on whenever a trade happens for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and I think we'll when we find out, we'll let everyone else know, and we'll have a emergency pod, so to speak, to talk about it. So, I'm gonna pick a random sound, Alan, and we're just going to transition. How's that?
All right, let's do it.
All right, now we're talking about the Olympics and the NHL. Alan, when was the last time NHLers were in the Olympics?
The last time that I saw, I think it was it probably might have been 2011, somewhere around that time, if I'm correct.
Yeah. No, the last time they played was, or they've been playing in there, it seems, since 2014 on a article I just looked up.
Oh, was that in Sochi, Russia?
That was in Sochi. So yeah, that was in Russia. So it looks like it's been a while, at the very least. I don't know if they were in it in 2018, but I remember this is a big deal for the NHL, first and foremost, because there was a large debate for a long time that this wouldn't even happen.
Mm-hmm.
Saw that because Gary Bettman came out and said we're still in talks, we'll see what happens. But then the schedule comes out and we see that there's this large break for the Olympics in February, and that gave everybody hope that this would happen.
Oh, that's good. That's
then a few weeks go by, and then NHL makes the announcement.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
Dude, I'm excited, if in all honesty, because like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Nathan McKinnon will make up most likely that top line for Team Canada. And Team Canada is going to be a beast this year. They're going to have the great, they'll have, as mentioned, most likely Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon on that first line. They'll have Cale Makar on that first line defense or somewhere in that defense. And Cale Makar is just a beast defensively. They'll probably have, if I remember right, Quinn Hughes is from Canada, so he'll be on there somewhere. And that's just amazing. And then the Russian Olympic Committee will have Alex Ovechkin, Andrei Vasilevsky, if he's Russian, I believe he is.
Yeah, he is. He's Russian.
So Russia is going to have the ROC is going to have a great goaltender, if not the best goaltender of our generation currently. Sweden's going to be great. They'll have Gabriel Landeskog, Victor Hedman. They'll have great players all across the board. And Team USA is going to be good too. Let's not dispute that, but all these teams are going to be really good. And that's what you want to see. Like the shot, if you Winter Olympic fans, when I say that, or hockey fans in general, if I say the shot, the golden shot, everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's the goal scorer that Sidney Crosby made. I believe it was to win the gold medal back in 2012 or something like that. It was like one of the most recent times. And it's going to be great because we get to have moments like that with our favorite players, with their countries. And I think that's great. And as a fan of one team, it's going to be hard because all my favorite players are going to be all across the board on different countries. But I think that's what makes it great, because then instead of rooting for countries, I mean, obviously I'm rooting for the US. That's where I'm from. That's who I root for. But like, I also want my players to do well. And I think that's the most important thing. You root for your country, but your players are from across the world and you want them to do well as well.
Yeah, I was actually very excited as well. I believe that what the NHL did is right. That they're going to be there next year in 2026 is great for the NHL. Even the players, that's going to give more exposure to the NHL, like showing, hey, this is the talent pool we have from around the world. Get to know them, like know their story, their skills. Like that is great. When we get to see that hockey grows, no matter where you're from, it starts growing that even if you don't practice it, you want to watch. You want to watch what these guys can do. And to be honest with you, like I do remember that shot that Sidney Crosby made. It was probably one of the best hockey games that I've seen as far as international competition is concerned. So I really am excited to watch hockey, especially in the NHL, players coming in. Because when you have the best show up in the biggest stage in the world, it'll be worth to watch. And that's what you're looking for. You want the best in the bigger grand stage of them all, the Winter Olympics. And that's going to happen 2022 Beijing. And I know there were some rumors that if the US will go in to Beijing, but that's going to be a different topic. We'll talk about some other time. But other than that, we're still gonna. I'm really truly am excited. They like basically when I look at Commissioner Bettman, he basically does what the NBA does because he was there in the NBA. He has seen the growth, and I believe he was there when the Dream Team brought the NBA players to be part of the Olympic movement, and it worked. And he wants to replicate that, and he will continue to replicate it just as long as he is commissioner. So this is a great news, really. I love it, and I think they should continue to bring the pros in, and that will allow, as we talked about, countries to be like, you know what, we want to send our best players to the best league at the NHL, so they can come back and bring that to us and battle to get a gold or to medal in the competition.
So I think if we're going to, not that this is obviously a year out. We don't know what it means yet. So it's going to be hard to predict. But honestly, Alan, I think Canada is going to win gold. US might get silver if they're lucky. They have to play the games. We have to see the teams. But I think it's going to be like somewhere up there and then third place or the bronze is going to be up for grabs, whether it's Sweden, Finland, the ROC. It's going to be, but those two, I think Canada and the US will play in that gold medal game. What do you think? I mean, obviously, this is way too early predictions. So.
This is 50-50. I'm probably not going to make a prediction until I see who will be in it, what's the roster going to look like, because there's always going to be a team that's going to shock everybody. That always happens, and I believe next year's Olympics will be no exception at all.
No, I don't think so either. And obviously, I'm making predictions way too early. But when you think about the potential of having Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Sidney Crosby all on the same line, and then having their defense with Cale Makar, I'm going to double check, but like all these other great Canadian defensemen that are in the league right now, Team Canada is going to be hard to beat. So, yeah. But obviously we have to play the games. We have to see the teams, but I think I got a sound that encapsulates pretty well how Alan and I are feeling right now. So there's that. But yeah, so like I think that's the best part is we're just bounding excited right now for what this means for the NHL, what it means for hockey, and what it means for the world as well. And I think that's the great part about it.
Oh yeah.
So we got a couple minutes left here, Alan. Why don't we go ahead and start wrapping things up?
All right, let's do that. And like I mentioned, we will have an episode, a new program called Soaring Beginnings. And what basically it is, it tells the story of how Pineapple 22 Media and Soaring Sports, and let me know if I'm forgetting another one, began. How did we get inspired by this? We also talk about our backgrounds, like what got us interested into sports. Also, how like where we grew up, how did that influence our view of sports and our view and how we look at the world. And it will be great to also, as you listen to that, to even reflect upon your own, like how in the environment that you grew up reflects who like your views in the sports world. Like what makes you tick, what makes you want to tune in, and what makes you want to be like, you know what, I have an opinion on this particular subject. I want to talk about it. So that will be coming up, and as soon as it hits, we will let you know, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Alan, for that plug. That Soaring Beginnings will be hosted by me. As you know, as Alan has mentioned before, Pineapple 22 Media comes from I guess you could say is my brainchild. So I'll be kind of hosting that, going through the stories of how I got inspired, how an interview Alan, we'll interview Toro with Noble Sports Guy, and we'll just tell the story of how we all got started. And we don't know what I'll say in the first episode is I don't know. We don't know where the future, what it will bring. I don't know. You won't know, but we know where we've been, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And so, Alan, you got any final thoughts for the 50 seconds we got left?
Other than we're back. This is great. We're just getting started again. Be patient with us. Remember, we're always listening. And even on your downtime, remember, we're always one click away. And we're always there, no matter what. Even if you disagree with us, that is okay, because we live in a world that it's okay to disagree. So we will take it. But remember, you're not alone.
Couldn't said it better myself. Let's just ride this out.
Yeah. Until next time.